Extreme Dad, hello! Welcome back! There you go, hello!
Hey there.
Hey!
All right. So anyway, what's up?
Not much. I'm doing good. I'm a little bit sweaty.
You kept me playing the waiting game while you debated with some uninteresting nobodies. People talk about political ideologies from the 40s.
I mean,
Is that interesting to people?
I advocate for political ideologies from like the 1870s, so
What relevance does that have?
What do you mean?
Like, okay, listen. Hear me out on this, okay? Because
right.
this is incredibly serious. Okay, listen. Truly, your content divides, alienates, and radicalizes people into a violent political ideology, into a violent revolutionist thinking. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering,
Good.
why?
Wait, it's good. Wait, didn't we agree in our last discussion? We both agree that terrorism is okay as long as we agree it's to good ends. Because I agree with that statement.
Your good ends are so that you can talk about political ideologies from the 1800s. I don't consider that interesting or worth killing my neighbor over a bottle of water at the food
Wait,
fest.
do you think that leftists are fighting for a worldwide revolution so that everybody can be online and talk about Marx all day? Like, that's why we're doing it?
It seems that way from here.
Okay. We're actually doing it to liberate the proletariat class from the oppression of their
Liberate
capitalists.
the proletariat class. What does that mean?
The idea is that the people who actually produce things, these are the workers. These people make things. They make the world better. Everything that is made, everything that is done by them. And they get paid for their labor. However, a large portion of the wealth that their labor generates goes towards the owner of whatever business they currently reside in. And they're taking it having done absolutely nothing, and they hoard that money at the very top of the economic pyramid, and through their economic and social control, they are able to facilitate an ongoing system of economic and systemic oppression. And leftists want to break that cycle by seizing the means of production and ensuring that everyone is fairly compensated for their labor.
So for private industry, you guys have taken over my job site. Okay, your armed leftist gang has taken over my job site. You guys have seized the means of production. Where's the money going now, and how is it distributed now that you guys are in control?
Well,
how do I benefit?
Well, ideally, and this is very this is very like simplistic, which is fine for the context of this conversation.
I need simplistic here.
Yeah. Of course, because probably there'd be like a really long protracted revolution, which would require state intervention, blah blah blah. But yes, let's say your workforce has been seized. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean people with guns storm in or anything. Ideally, it would mean that the capitalist owners of your enterprise would have their wealth expropriated, and then we could go down to your office or branch or whatever, and we could say, congratulations, comrades, you've been liberated. From this point forward, you will now be selecting amongst yourselves to democratically elect your managers. None of you will own this business. All of you will own it. And the proceeds from this business will be shared collectively amongst those workers in a process consistent with the democratic means of election. So you would then, as a member of this new democratic class of workers, either be elected to be a manager of some kind. You would like maybe manage payroll or be like a higher branch office, or if you're not elected, you would be one of the people to elect that manager, and you would instead work as you do now, with the exception that you now have democratic control and partial ownership of the place in which you work, meaning that you will be receiving more money because there's no one at the top to siphon any of that off, and you'll have control in some of the policies. Maybe you really hated like the casual Friday or whatever. That no longer is a thing that the boss can just dictate to you. You get control over it to an extent. You can vote, you can organize, you can convince your coworkers and have them stand up to management.
Convince your coworkers? Do you mean I can dictate they have to do casual Friday?
No. You can try to convince them and you can all vote on it. Company policies would be decided democratically, just like our government.
How is it decided now?
Well, it's a dictatorship. The boss can do literally anything they want as long as it doesn't violate, like, corporate law. If a boss says, like, hey, if you work here, you have to wear this, that's their right.
How much am I getting paid?
Well, like, in this hypothetical?
Yes.
Well, if you were getting paid 20 before and your work is putting out 30, I don't know. There would probably be still a little bit of overhead necessary to, like, keep the lights on and stuff, but you would probably get more. I'm using arbitrary numbers here, but Let's just say 25 or 28.
Little raise, huh? So how's that money? How do we find those numbers as opposed to the $20 and my boss keeping 10? How do we find the overhead and decide what's going to be the business running as opposed to what my boss was just keeping, or keeping the business running what he thought he was doing, but obviously he wasn't doing that. He was putting it into his pocket because he's a dirty, rotten capitalist.
Well, he was doing both. He was keeping the business running, and he was doing it in an exploitative way that deprived you of your excess labor value. But if you have a manager that's been like elected democratically, the manager can make those decisions, and they still have control, but they've been elected, and you can resist.
Does he get paid more than I do?
I'm sorry?
Does he get paid more than I do?
There's a possibility that they could be, yes, if that's what's voted on.
Well, isn't he just siphoning off my labor value then?
There's an example that I can cite here called the Mondragon Corporation. It's a worker co-op, which is basically what I'm describing, that operates out of Spain. It's one of the largest corporations in Spain. And in Mondragon Corporation, to my memory, it could be 6 or 8, but at no point is the highest paid person in that corporation allowed to make more than 6 times as much as the lowest paid person. In contrast, some of the people who work in companies in America, like Walmart, have CEOs who make hundreds of times as much as them, and who do no work themselves. They just profit off ownership. This is the primary difference. There will still probably be people in a democratic socialist society that make more money and do less work, but it's about flattening that divide, like that hierarchy. It's about making things more fair, giving you more wealth for the work, the honest work you do, and allowing control of this place to be dictated by the people who work there, rather than the person who just lucked out and happens to control the current like shares of the company.
So let me ask you this. Now, bear with me here.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the manager getting paid more as opposed to the worker getting paid less? What do you think the efforts and the work efficiency difference is there? How much more work or more valuable
like
work
today? In my system, hypothetically, or like today?
Today, I mean, or no, in this system that we're talking about here.
So, like, what do you do if you don't like that your manager is making more than you?
No, I'm saying the manager is making more money in this hypothetical scenario. This worker, me, is making less money. How much more work do you think that my manager is doing? How much better is he contributing to the company than I am as a lower worker, to distinguish the pay gap, to make it valuable, to make it more understandable?
I don't know. That depends on what you guys vote on. The wages would be voted on by you. If you think that your manager is making too much, like, you guys can vote. That's on you. Like, they don't just dictate their own wages. It's put to a vote and you decide.
Hey, Vosh.
Uh-huh.
This sounds like capitalism with ballot boxes.
Yes. Introducing democracy to capitalism is one of the most foundational steps forward to the obliteration of the class divide.
Huh. Well, how about that? Here's
the
thing.
But just so you know, that's a critical difference. Capitalism means private ownership of the means of production. Well, it is, because what capitalism is private ownership of the means of production. That's when a boss just owns the factory. And what I'm advocating for is public control of the means of production, which is socialism. The same economic systems are kept more or less intact. It just changes who has the power and how the power is distributed.
Right, but if it changes who has the power and how the power is there a chance that you will end up in a fucked up, worse off situation?
I suppose there's always a chance. I think it's much less likely that you'll end off in a fucked up situation in a democratic system.
Well, much less likely. We're not in a fucked up situation now, though.
No, I would argue we are.
How?
Well,
How
have
is the current
record
fucked up for the average worker?
Hold on. So do you really want me to go through like the list? record
Oh, just
global
give me that
poverty.
basic- just
Well, hold on,
basic-
I need to go through the list. Record
Okay, go ahead.
global poverty, record economic inequality, both domestic and foreign, wages not keeping up with the cost of living, anti-democratic measures being put in place by our government as they consolidate the power of the capitalist class, votes of rich people mattering more than poor people in the sense that being able to pay money into like the voting process, lobbyists and campaign finance and what have you allows them a greater level of control over the opinions of our politicians. The fact that people are having to work harder and harder and harder to survive, in spite of the fact that worker productivity is increasing every year. Like, things are actually like really bad, and they could be so much better if we only changed who was in charge and how they got that power. You got wrecked, I'm sorry. Yeah, I got fucking BTFO'd in that conversation. Let's be real. Oh man. You fucking degenerates, okay?
All she's doing is smack talking me. She's just talking bad about me, about my character, and it's all complete bullshit. It literally had nothing